So, I know it's been a while since I made a video. So I have an Audi E-Tron as a loaner car because my Audi RS6 is in service. This is the car right here. Boom. So Audi E-Tron. It's a 2020, I believe. And it's nice because it has an air ride suspension, which makes the ride a lot better. But, you know, I want to talk a little bit about electric cars, right? I've never driven really electric cars, never really owned one per se. My car's been in service for a little while because a lot of the parts were back ordered. They're doing some recall stuff. So it's been in there about 2 weeks. So I've had the E-Tron for now about 2 weeks, so I can actually give a proper kind of review or kind of understanding on what it's like to somewhat own this thing, because that's kind of like where I've been owning this thing, so to speak, right? So one of the things I want to say is the mileage is pretty spot on, right? So right now it's been charging all night. It'll be around, I think, 205 or 210 miles once I unplug this thing which I'm about to do right now. And I noticed, like, yesterday I was driving around all day, drove about 120 miles, and from the 205 it says that you can fully get on a charge considering like ideal conditions. It was really off by about 15 miles at the end when I came to put it back on charge last night. So today I'm doing like a road trip up to Malibu. I'm curious to see like how it does all freeway, mainly at a higher speed, seeing if that mileage discrepancy kind of changes a little bit, right? My brother has a Mercedes EQB, and that's another good example because I think he put like 100 miles on it yesterday or something, or 90 miles, and the mileage difference was only 8 miles from like what it's saying you can get on a full charge versus what you actually get, which is super good, right? So it's funny because you know, I've heard a lot of Tesla owners experience about 30% droppage in mileage, right? So for example, if they're getting 300 miles on a full charge, they're really saying like oh, I'm really getting like 200 on a full charge, right? Because it says 300, but 30% drop is around 90 miles or so, give or take. So if you just round it up a little bit, they're getting close to 200. So this right here is giving you 205 out of the box, and it's pretty damn accurate. So it's kind of like doing the same distance, right? With this, incomparable to another, like a Tesla, like this one, like a Model Y. Like comparable to this, even though it's not as advertised, right? Correctly, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. So there are a newer version of the E-Tron now. The newer version of these things are getting, I think, 260 miles on a full charge, and the new Q8's like 300. So I'm really curious. They got a lot of crazy lease deals on them right now, so it'll be interesting to see kind of where the market ends up for this. I can charge for free at my house, so that's kind of what's kind of made it feel a little bit lucrative to want to get one of these electric cars. We are in the E-Tron. First things first, the air ride suspension, like I mentioned, right? So the Premium Plus model is the one that comes with the air ride suspension. So that's something that you should definitely note. The Premium Plus model is the one that comes with the air ride suspension. So that is the one that rides a lot better, in my opinion. It's smoother. It has all the different modes of when it raises and lowers, and when you put it in efficiency mode, it lowers on the freeway at higher speed to give it less drag, less wind going around the car, etc. And quite frankly, it looks a lot better too when the air ride stuff is actually kind of working, because it makes the car have a nice, more aesthetically appealing approach, I guess you could say. So yeah, like right now we're in a parking lot and it's pretty dead silent, as you can tell. I have everything off, no music, of course, no air conditioning right now. I just turned it off, but you can kind of hear it. And then honestly, the sport mode in this thing works super well. Works really well, honestly. And it's quick. And then the regenerative braking is nice. You can hit the paddle and then it'll just regenerative brake when you hit the paddle. Like right there, it's all braking without me essentially hitting any brakes at all. Actually, it's just all the regen braking stuff. So I'm gonna get a coffee. I'll do a walk around of the car right now, interior, exterior, real quick, some shots of it, just to give you guys an idea of the E-Tron. But so far, let me do a review of somebody that's actually been driving it for over 2 weeks now, somebody that's actually been utilizing the car, somebody that's actually been going through the process of like what it could possibly be like to own one of these, right? So, you know, first things first, The range is pretty dead on. Let's say 15 to 20 mile discrepancy for the range, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the fit and finish of the Audi is so much better than the Tesla. Let's just be honest. And it's nicer to be driving an Audi than a Tesla. Like, for example, I had a friend of mine, she was in the car and she's like, I can't believe that this is actually electric. It doesn't feel like an electric car. It doesn't feel like I stepped into an electric car because it's not as obvious. Like, you could look at this thing in the parking lot and be like, oh, okay, like that's a nice SUV. It's an Audi, cool. You get the European kind of brand nostalgia, like status, quote unquote, maybe with it, if that's what you're looking for. But also, you know, it's nice because it looks like an SUV still. It still looks like something that's probably gas powered, unless you kind of know what the e-tron is, right? Because the majority of people don't really they don't really care. They're not as much into cars as like people that are into cars like myself. So that's another thing about it. The seats are shaped a lot better, right? Like when you look at some of these other manufacturers, they cheap out. You know, the biggest, you know, obviously electric car right now manufacturer is Tesla. So when you look at those and you look at the seats, it's like just a basic ass seat. There's nothing special about it. At least this thing, you're like comfortable with it. The infotainment system is really good. It's not everything is touch. You have buttons. That's the one thing I like. This everything being touch on a touch screen is so annoying. So having buttons to operate and do normal stuff is so much easier because it's just quicker to get to. It's quicker to just change on the fly. You don't have to get your eyes off the road as much, which kind of defeats the purpose, right, of like, you know, keeping your eyes on the road, etc., and making a safe car. It's like, you know, you have all these features that are all over the place on this like iPad screen thing, and it's hard to access or navigate, right? So yeah, anyways, I will finish this review probably in Malibu because that's where I'm headed. So it'll be interesting to see how far this thing ends up going, and how accurate it ends up being. But city highway, like I mentioned earlier, the discrepancy wasn't too bad, about 15-ish miles. So all right, here's the e-tron. As you can see, it actually looks like a proper SUV, right? With proper storage in the back. Yeah, that's my loaner car, like I mentioned. Proper storage in the back. I got my bag back there. It's got the cover, electric tailgate, which is super nice. And also in the back, you have a very nice, clean setup, right? Like, and then you have the infotainment controls back here. Excuse me, not the infotainment, the climate control. But here's the crazy part. I'm 6 feet tall, and this person, my buddy, was sitting here with the seat pretty much all the way back. I'm 6 feet tall, and look how much room I have. My head space is insane. So much room. The back seat is insane. There's so much room. My legs sit comfortably. Honestly, I'm very, very, very shocked at the room in the back of the e-tron. I think, honestly, it has more room than some full-size SUVs that I've been in. So that is a very, very well thought out, well designed, I guess, feature, or just a good design, right? So this is the touchscreen here. As you see the fingerprints on it, my RS6 has a similar screen, but you can get the non-fingerprint little cover that goes over these, and it makes the world of a difference. Okay, so the front is super nice. See, you hit unlock. You have the nice running lights that turn on there, as you can see. So we'll get inside. We'll get inside the driver's seat. Okay, so now that we're in the car, I'm gonna reset my long-term memory real quick. It's cool, the navigation shows up there. Long-term memory reset, also reset, I guess, my short-term as well. Cool, so we got about 193 miles. Like I said, we're going on a little road trip, so I'm curious to see how it works out. Got my Waze set up here, which is nice. Then you have your climate control set up there. Super, super simple, super, super easy to use. None of these weird gimmicks and whatnot. And then nice panoramic, huge roof is nice as well. So quick interior walkthrough, and yeah, we'll probably finish the video when I'm kind of done with this drive because it's longer, and give an idea on like what the range is like. All right, so we made it to Malibu. 147 left on the charge. We've gone 75 miles. That's crazy. So it's 2.8 kilowatts an hour. So when you break it down into the size of the battery, which I think is a 95 kilowatt battery, it's saying it should get like around 280, 290 miles on a full charge, which is crazy because this thing is rated like at 210, I think, or 220. I'll have to double check. Somewhere in there, 210 or 220, 205 in that range. So it's been doing really well. My average speed, it says in this one, is 43 miles per hour, but you know, most of that was like at the last 5 minutes because it was dead stop traffic because they were like cleaning something on the road. But most of that was about 70 miles an hour actually. So most of that, it's gotten 70 miles an hour. So just got back from my Malibu trip down the road from my house. That's what we got. 2.7 kilowatts an hour, 178 miles, 178.7, and we still have 36 miles to go. So when you factored that in, that's pretty impressive. That's right around the 210 to 220 mile range. So it's doing exactly almost 100% of what this is supposed to do, depending on the driving conditions that I just put the car through. So that's pretty dang impressive. So yeah, I'm actually very surprised. So the next test I'm gonna do, my buddy gave me a good idea, rent a Model Y Performance. I'm gonna rent it for like 5 or 6 days on Turo and do the exact same drive that I just did. Weather's gonna be exact same, everything's gonna be the exact same. The weather's gonna be the same for like the next 2 months here in Southern California. So it will be very interesting to see the results of that one. So stay tuned. This is a very interesting kind of technical stuff, but it's kind of fun. So yeah, I'm very impressed with the E-Tron so far. Right now, it's #1 on the list for me.